Excuse me. Good morning. My name is Craig Goodman. I'm the President, CEO, and founder of the National Energy Marketers Committee Association. We've been involved with virtually every opening, market opening, regulatory restructuring that's taken place since 1997 in the United States. And I've heard a lot of things today, many of which are very helpful. Mr. Hendricks is one of our board members, and he's got some of the best experience of anyone since Walmart is literally everywhere. But what I brought for you, because everybody seems to want to know the answer to this question, and we've been able to distill it into a couple of charts. The chart right here answers an enormous number of questions that we get from virtually every single commission in the country. What's going to happen to us if we deregulate or restructure, or however you want to call it? In fact, this is and it's the only one that I'm aware of, a quantitative economic analysis of 2008 through 2017. Use 2008 as a starting point. I can go back to 1997 as a starting point. But just using those 10 years, the top line up there is your percentage increase in a non-deregulated marketplace. The bottom line, the orange line, is what the weighted average price to consumers has been over the same exact period of time.
Excuse me, could you please use the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Apologize. The bottom line is the weighted average price of the 14 states that has either full or partial deregulation in place. During the same period, the blue lines had none. They stayed closed. The difference in percentage growth, since you got my copies, is at the end of 18, you've got percentage growth on non-open utilities of 14% cumulatively, and on open states, you're looking at 6%. Now, I'm sorry I don't have the big version. I didn't know I was going to have the opportunity. And I don't know if this big version looks any better in black and white. People can see those lines. But the most important part of those lines is that blue center point. That blue mark in the center. This was done by an independent consulting group called the Perriman Group when the constitutional amendment to the state of Florida was being proposed. They brought in a group called the Perriman Group to do an independent analysis, pricing analysis specifically, of regulated versus non-regulated states and the amount of savings that consumers can get in a non-regulated state, I shouldn't say non-regulated state, an open market versus a monopoly market. Make it real simple. And it's showing a cumulative total of savings of $340 billion over 10 years. And that doesn't even include the savings that I know personally occurred between 1997 and 2008. Because when they first opened up in 2097, people were running away from the utilities not because of price deals. They were running away from utilities because of the kind of service they were getting or the kind of attitude that they were getting. So the first wave of migrators, was huge. We went from maybe 5 or 6 marketers in the state of New York when they opened to over 200 marketers in a period of a year. It was like a gold rush, literally. But it has come to a point where, in my personal opinion, and I've put the association behind this opinion, is that the Western United States is really where the next gold rush is going to be. And that's not price gouging gold rush. This is just the ability to compete against extremely high utility rates in very conventional and unconventional ways. So we've got technology groups. We have a technology policy committee. We've got a CEO policy group. We've got a whole list of issue and state-oriented policy committees that help commissioners resolve the sticky issues that you always come up with. I brought, and I'll leave for the record, Consumer Bill of Rights, which is one of the first things we did as an organization. Behind this was a national standards of conduct on how not to approach consumers. There are a lot of people approaching the consumer that would scare the bejesus out of the poor person at the door. And literally, we came to a finesse, what I call a finesse, but it's not really. If a consumer feels uncomfortable, you stop. You don't have to be told to leave. You just stop and thank them for their time and realize you've passed the line of propriety. This other handout we're putting into the record for you is all about NEM. We've been in existence 22 years, and we have been involved in virtually every state opening or every state issue affecting a state opening since that time. The questions that you have placed into your record as wanting information on, we will be submitting after this a full answer to each of your questions, because we have experienced each of your questions and we've seen the good, bad, and the ugly of the outcomes for each of these questions. They were all, I commend you. You've identified extremely well the issues that are at the bottom of whether or not you want to open your market and how you want to do it and who you want in your market and who you don't want in your market. And in all of the markets we serve, and we are a nonprofit trade association, but I've been doing this for 40 years. I used to be a prosecutor against the oil companies during the price lines of the 70s. I've worked for 3 different presidential administrations and implemented everything from the end of price controls to the beginning of the oil and natural gas price control, free market pricing. So natural gas has gone as high as $15 and as low as 20 cents. And oil during the period in question had gone as low as $2 to $48 but landed. So government's been involved, but believe it or not, when the government stopped being involved, when President Reagan's first day in office, he literally tore up all the price and wage controls that were left, which was all on energy. And the energy prices started declining for the first time in, I think, 10 years thereafter. So there are some lessons to be learned that have been learned, but not widely spread. And counterintuitively, you'd think you take price controls off, the prices would go through the roof. He took all the price controls that were left off, and the price declined by 50%. As a matter of fact, I think in that, yes, I know for a fact, if you turn that page from that diagram that was up there to the next page, this will show you, and particularly at the bottom of that page, I don't think people will be able to see it. Can see it. We're going to make sure you have copies for everybody. It tells you the number of utilities in the state of Texas and the prices that they charged prior to the implementation of their restructuring. And to make a long story shorter, the price reductions between then and now start at 57% reduction and go all the way up to a 65% reduction in prices. Prices that went from 9 cents, went down to 9 cents from a price of 13 cents, went down to 10 cents from a 13-cent price. These are kilowatts now. Center Point went down from 14 cents down to 10 cents. Encore went from 13 cents down to 9. And the last one, I don't know what the initials are for, but they were the largest decrease. They went from 14% down to 14 cents to 10 cents. And on the top of it, on the top of that page, you have the number of suppliers that came into the market and the number of different new products, services, information, and technology that was developed as a result of an open market, and the ability to make a profit was available. The rest of this I'd be glad to talk to you about, but it's a lot of words, and I don't want to keep you with a lot of words. You have them in your hands. I don't need to make a speech about it. I think those salient points really point out to everything that anyone who's making the decision you're making is going to want to have those answers. And I have found that first chart with the $340 billion worth of savings to be probably one of the best charts I've seen in all 14. Well, I've only been doing this for 20 years, but I did it for 20 years prior to that for Mitchell Energy in the Woodlands, Texas, and for Presidents Carter, Reagan, and Bush. So I was director of oil policy, oil economic and energy tax policy under both President Reagan and President Bush. So I've been doing this virtually my entire adult life. And I would be honored to help in any way possible as your state goes toward a full restructuring. Another chart you would like to see is the restructuring also encouraged renewable resource development, didn't discourage it, it encouraged it. And the amount of renewable generation went significantly higher. So without boring you or wasting any more of your time, I thought it was worthwhile to put these in the record for you. And I'd be delighted to answer any questions you might have for me.
I'll just say thank you for that data. That's very, very helpful, and I look forward to analyzing the other studies that have been brought up that are addressing the questions that I submitted in the letter, and also would encourage folks that have any pieces of data that they think refute anything that's been shared, and analyze that as well. But thank you so much for your experience and sharing your testimony with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you as well.